a woman writes to me and says, the other day my husband, Bob, talked about how he was feeling overwhelmed with responsibility. And as an example, he said everybody left him in the kitchen after dinner. And the kitchen got cleaned because he was alone and he had to do it. And he's doing too many projects and he's going from one thing to another. And you all know how this ends, and blah, 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 blah. And I do everything around the house. And everybody's had this discussion if they're alive. She continues, I know he needed to be loved, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to say. Everything I knew to try up until then made things worse. So I did try some things, but he wasn't having anything to do with any of it. Just wasn't working. I was too afraid to try anything more. It ended with him saying, well, tomorrow's a new day. I don't think either of us knew what to do next. He said, well, is it time for bed? I agreed. I decided to listen to part of a video chat, like this one, that I had saved that I thought would lift my spirits while he was going and getting ready for bed. And I told him that I would be there with him after I listened to something first, which is really not a bad idea. You feel out of sorts, you listen to a video chat, you read from a real love book, you read a meditation, whatever, that just gets you outside of yourself because your thoughts are spinning around and something has to stop them. You can't just say, I'll stop. Now they have to be replaced with something more productive, you see? So good for you that you did this. Excellent that you didn't continue the argument and you just said, sure, let's go to bed. Sometimes knowing when not to talk is as important as knowing what to say. In fact, wow, sometimes knowing when to shut up is like, key. You continue. I cried as I listened to the message on the video chat. They were tears of relief as I remembered that you love me and other people love me too. It was about 10 minutes before I made it back to the bedroom because I just wanted to listen to enough to change how I felt. And when I got there, the lights were off and he had rolled over to his side of the bed. I got in bed and after a few minutes, I said, are you still mad at me? Forgive me for chuckling because this never goes well. And he said, predictably, no. That's why the lights are off and he's rolled to his side of the bed. So, are you still mad at me? The word still is really the key word. Never, ever works. Think of it as being equivalent to, are you still stupid? Are you still ugly? It just doesn't work. Because it implies, the word still, that he's been angry for too long. Do you see? You wouldn't say still. If somebody had just arrived and sat in their seat, you watched them. They came in the door, they sat in their seat. Would you say, are you still sitting? No, because they just sat down. No, still means it's been too long. And that he's doing something wrong. So it doesn't really matter. They said no. Of course he's annoyed. Then I asked, you continue, I asked, can I scoot closer to you? And he said, yes. That was really smart. I curled up next to him. He reciprocated by touching my hand. Can you see? It's almost like a little game of chess, So you make a big, bold move by, can I scoot closer? And you curl up next to him and he reciprocates with, you move your queen to the middle of the board in chess and he moves a pawn ahead of space, just kind of to go, I'm in the game. I ain't playing very much, but I'm in the game. You continue. I could feel by curling up to him, I was trying to get love from him. Ooh, that's smart to see. And he had nothing to give. So I decided it was best to stop. So I turned in the other direction, but I stayed close with my back touching his. He fell asleep. I couldn't fall asleep. So I got up. I heard him stirring. So I said, I can't sleep. My head is spinning. I'm going to go to the living room. And I kissed him on the forehead, and he said, okay. And now I'm here writing to you, which is the email I'm reading right now. So, baby, this is all part of the inevitable process of learning. You'll be wiser tomorrow. Somebody blew it when they left him alone in the kitchen to clean up the mess. He blew it when he got mad about it. You blew it when you didn't tell him exactly how many minutes it was going to be before you're in the bedroom. Because see, when you're waiting on something, time stands still. No kidding. I can still remember as a child, back before cell phones, my mother would say, I'll pick you up from school, because there was, I think, only once or twice in my life that I went to school at a place far from home. And she said, I'll pick you up after school. And I stood there waiting for her, out on the corner, in the freezing rain, with the Indian arrows shooting by me, in the dark, as the cats snarled in the night. That's how it feels. And I would swear that I waited there for, 10 hours. I can't actually remember how long it was before she got there, but it was probably 15 minutes. It just seems like when you don't know, it just makes you nuts. So everybody made mistakes. So now we're going to start smarter tomorrow. You said, this evening is such a stark contrast from yesterday morning, where he and I spent hours just lying in bed talking. So remember that. That is real. That is what you're capable of. Why? Because that is, pay attention, you. That's who you really are. When you can just lie there in bed and just talk to him for hours because it's fun. That's you. That's him. And then you had some interactions that were distorted by fear and pain, very likely, almost certainly from the past. That's what happens. It intrudes. Well, so what? Now you learn from that and you go back to what is real, to the real you that was lying there in bed and just talking for hours to your partner. You continue by saying, am I doing something wrong that I don't feel connected to him now? Oh, just keep going. Just go find him and give him a kiss, or touch him on the arm, or help him wash the dishes, or whatever. And let the past go. We really don't have to dig up every piece of garbage. We don't. Sometimes it's just better to, I do this in my yard sometimes. I encounter some great big object that was buried by a construction crew 50 years ago. And I can tell by picking around at the edges, this is going to be a lot of work to dig up. Nah, I make a planter over it. I make a rock planter, or I cover it up with soil, or I plant something, and, I don't have to dig up every little thing. You don't either. So let it go. You just fell down. That's all. You conclude by saying, my head is analyzing what happened. Where did things go wrong? I repeat, stop analyzing. Let it go. Start over. Go find him. Love him. Period. And I love you. There. New subject. My daughter, this is from a lady who writes, my daughter Linda made some mistakes yesterday. I was having a hard day, but spent the time reading and rereading your last text to me, and also reading the parenting book. So I knew that I needed to let go of my own frustration and anger before I talked with her. So I gave myself the time I needed. Wow, that's 2 emails in a row, where instead of blowing up and engaging somebody while you're angry, here's 2 people in a row who didn't do that. They went and did something so that they'd lose the anger. So bless your heart. You continue. When she got home last night, I asked her to come sit in the living room so we could talk. I calmly reminded her how much I love her. Ooh, nice opening. And that her happiness is the most important thing. And then I said that you made some mistakes today. Let's talk about them so that you'll be able to make wiser choices and be less likely to make these mistakes again. Then I said, I know of at least 3 mistakes you made today. What do you think they are? Oh, honey, Hall of Fame parenting here. I listened to, as parents describe to me their interactions with their kids. And the parents do all the work. It's really stupid. So the child makes bad choices. See, the law of the universe is the law of the harvest. You reap what you sow. You make a choice, you pay the price. And you also get the reward. That's the law of the universe. What we do as parents is we let our children make the choices, and then we pay the price of nagging them. Then we teach them the lesson that they needed to learn, which they're not listening to because we're irritated at them and all they hear is, I don't love you. Then we feel all frustrated and torn up inside. So we pay all the price for their choices. That is stupid, and it's wrong, and it's not loving, and it will never work, and yet we keep doing it. So you're a brilliant example here of not doing that. I know of at least 3 mistakes you made today. What do you think they are? You're giving her the job of pointing out her own mistakes instead of you ferreting them out. Oh, be still, my heart. This is lovely. I have to enjoy this moment. You continue. And she calmly told me all 3 of them and added another that I'd missed. Wow. Now, for the rest of you don't know who she is, but I do. And I've known her for some time now. This happened, this conversation where the daughter pointed out her 3 mistakes, added a 4th one, and all of this is happening because mom read the parenting book 9 times and simply did everything it said do with the kid. She learned to be loving. She found love for herself. She learned to be calm. She learned not to be angry. She learned how to teach her child to be loved, loving, and responsible. She did all the preparatory steps. Parents everywhere would kill to have a conversation like this with their kid, wouldn't they? So you made 3 mistakes today. Tell me what they are. Oh, well, I made 4, actually. Huh. Parents say they would kill to have this conversation, but then they don't do the work to make such a conversation possible. See? You have to do the preparation. I would love to hit the game-winning run in the 7th game of the World Series. Every kid who plays baseball says that. Or if you play European football, I would love to kick the winning penalty kick at the World Cup. Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, I would enjoy that too. But it turns out that it takes 20 plus years of preparation so you're able to do that. Because the pitcher's throwing the ball at you at 100 miles an hour. And when you kick the ball at the World Cup, you got the best players in the world trying to keep you from making that goal. This mother got to this place because she did her work. Dang, this is cool. Are you getting how pumped I am about this? I mean, I'm pumped here. This is wow. She continues. They all had to do her mistakes with her commitment to spend time after school getting caught up on missing assignments that were not completed. One mistake was that her friends asked her to go to the Dairy Queen with them right after school. And of course, she said yes and ended up at the Dairy Queen instead of at the school's media center to work. I mean, here you are sitting at the desk catching up on your homework. Doesn't that just sound romantic? Wow. I just can't wait to catch up on my homework. So I've never heard a child say it with that tone of voice. And along come your friends and go, you could catch up with your homework, like You could stick your head in a toilet, or you could come with us to the Dairy Queen. I'll get back to you. Of course she went. You continue. I talked with her about how these were all about responsibility and saying no in the short term to pleasures so that she could have something more important in the long term. Ah, beautiful. I mean, this is Hall of Fame motherhood. That yes, it was fun to go to the Dairy Queen. Good for you to acknowledge that. We don't ever say to kids, we understand why you would do that. Well, of course, Dairy Queen homework. I got it. With your friends, but she's risking failing one of her classes. And then now we have summer school. Then we have possibly delayed graduation from high school. Then we have delayed admission to college. Then we have blah, 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 all because you had an ice cream cone. I mean, it sounds silly, but I talk to people every day who say to me, these are 50-year-old people. So I don't know what to do with my life. And I'm going, okay, well, so what are your qualifications? Let me see your transcripts, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out they can't get a job, metaphorically speaking here, because they were at the Dairy Queen eating ice cream. I'm not making this up. So what Mom's doing here is brilliant. Mom continues. Your choice doesn't matter to your friends going to the Dairy Queen, but it will matter to you because it would mean you might have to go to summer school. You might have to do academic work during winter break. Your friends will be all off skiing in the mountains or water skiing on the lake or whatever, and you'll be in school because you had an ice cream cone. Her friends will be having a great time, but she'll be recovering credit for a failed grade. Every parent on earth, please listen, really. Because, see, I get to see the kids when they're 30. And the parents didn't teach them this. And now they're 30 and they got no skills. They got no qualifications. They can't get into college because they went to the Dairy Queen. I apologize to Dairy Queen. It's not a bad place. But it's an excellent illustration of consequences. She will have to suffer them, not her friends. We were just talking about this in the previous example that I read, that what we do is we tend to let our children make their choices and then we pay the price by nagging them. Or we pay the price by taking care of our unexpected grandchild. Or we pay the price by letting them live in our basement until we're 90. I'm not making any of this up. I can give you examples of all of these easily. Mom continues. She listened intently. That's an example of good parenting in the past. She listened intently as I continued that this is an important skill to build because college and the rest of high school, she'll always face what's fun now versus what needs to be done so that in the long term, she can be happy and successful. And it was a lovely conversation. Stop it. Stop it. I know you're lying. Parents try to have these conversations with their kids. All of them do. They say, well, you got a D or you failed a class and you need to do better. Well, that's a worthless lesson. Every kid knows that an F or a, depends on what continent you're on, that getting 30% of your answers right is not going to lead to success. But see, this mother had prepared first by loving her child. So her child was listening intently. Wow. Mom continues. She decided to take a nap. Fine. And wanted me to get up out of my chair to come over to the couch and turn off a light. So she lies down to take a nap. Now notice, she made the choice and she wants Mom to pay the price. She laid down before she turned the light off. She wants Mom to pay the price of getting up and turning the light off. And I said, I won't do it. And then she got up and she got mad and stomped off. Now remember, we've had a brilliant conversation up to this point. I think the child got tired of hearing about being responsible and just wanted to spit out a little, go stick your head in the toilet to her mom. And so she did. She got mad and walked off. No swearing, though, which would always have happened in the past. Just quietly walked off. I gave her a few minutes, and I went to find her lying on, hang on, pause, my bed. My bed. This is the mom's bed, which I always know means she wants me to love her. That's like her signal to me that she wants to be loved. This is so cool. Even when the kid has a little fit, just kind of like, I just want to have a little anti-responsibility shrug, a little protest. So she did. Mom says, I went in and rubbed her back and just laid next to her for a few minutes. Genius. She later came out and said, I'm not telling you. I'm asking you if it would be okay with you if I go see my favorite movie, which is showing at a local theater, The Breakfast Club. It's an old retro, really kind of cult film. It's cult, not as in something weird. Cult as in, it's a classic. There are people who follow this movie. There are people who know all the lines of this movie. And it was a real classic at its time. Daughter continues. I said, oh, excuse me. So daughter makes the request to go see The Breakfast Club. And mom says, I said, only if you don't have any failing grades on your final report card. Then you can go see The Breakfast Club. She immediately got up, went over and got her homework out, and worked till midnight getting her stuff done. This is insanely brilliant parenting. Mom says, I wasn't the least bit irritated. I delivered it in a calm, loving space. Then later noticed how filled up I felt. I had the experience of the miracle of being loving and feeling more filled up afterward. So I gave and I had more. Cool. It's such cool anti-math. This is becoming fun, says Mom. The parenting book is so helpful. Now that I made it through all the weeping, I can actually take it in. In other words, in the beginning, when you first read the first third of the parenting book, you want to just shoot yourself in the head because you realize what a terrible person you are. Mom says, in hindsight, she was really all excited about the Breakfast Club and talked about how it's her favorite movie of all time. So I could have spent more time engaging in her excitement. Before I said only if she ended up with the failing, if she doesn't end up with the failing grade. So that was a little bit confusing. Mom was saying, I wish I'd listened more before I gave her the condition that she can see it only if she doesn't fail. All part of the learning. But realizing and joining in her excitement would have been fun for both of us. And then I could have set the limit afterward. I'm loving this learning. I'm so grateful to learn about real love. Well, you amaze me. And for everybody who's listening, this mother then, within a few days, the child got her midterm reports or whatever it was. There was no failing grades. It turns out that work till midnight actually made a difference. Who knew? It improved her grade more than ice cream. I mean, who knew? And she got to go see The Breakfast Club. You just had to hear the end of the story. It was very cool. New subject. A lady called me. She said she got home from a trip and now she had a conference to prepare, a work conference, get all the curriculum together and the speakers and blah, 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 blah. And she was worried about it. She said, I don't know what to do. And so now I'm talking to all of us, not just to her. It was to teach a principle that I brought up that what sort of ignited this conversation. What we tend to do, and I told her this, is to do things to prove our worth. Now, this is an important principle that's about to drop out of the sky, so hang on. We do so that we can prove that we're worth something. Or do so we prove we're not do. That's the normal pattern. It's backward and it doesn't work. It doesn't ever work. I was the master of doing for many years, and it got me with a gun to my head. So it's not the doing. Instead, we accept, what I'm suggesting is that we accept our worth right off from the beginning. We're already worth, because you're breathing, because you were born, you're already worthwhile. Who would look at a newborn baby and go, live or die? Nah, we'll just throw the baby in the trash. Who would do that? No, we'd pick the baby up. If we found a crying baby lying in the middle of the street, we would do this. Pick up the baby, wrap the baby in a blanket if we got it, take our shirt off, put it do whatever it took to protect the little baby from the elements, hold the baby close to us, go see if we can find some food, call the cops, whatever it takes to get this little baby loved and home and all that stuff. Proving that without any information at all, the baby's not doing anything. The baby didn't mow your lawn. The baby didn't, do your homework. It's just a baby. It's a person. Well, so are we. When did we lose our worth? We didn't. We're still worthwhile. We make mistakes, and then we think we're not worthwhile anymore. Now, the worth was already there. So accept our worth right off, because we breathe, because we're God's children, because people love us. Whatever works for you. If you don't believe you're already worthwhile, then talk to somebody who can communicate that to you in a way that you do believe it. And then everything changes. So if I start off worthwhile, then I don't have to prove myself anymore. And you don't either. So you're already worthwhile. Now you can just allow your performance, that's the doing, to proceed naturally forth from who you already are. Whoa. That's easier. It's also kind of deep. So instead of doing to prove who you are, we're already worthwhile. Now, what we do is a natural result of who we are. Ooh, there's also a beautiful little, sort of symmetry to that whole thing. It has a name that's going to come to my mind here in a minute. Chiasmus. If we put those two sentences together, instead of doing to prove who you are, accept who you are, and your doing will proceed forth from that. It's a form of chiasmus. It starts with a CH. You can look it up. And it's much easier. The next day she wrote, because I said all this to her, she said, I nailed the conference. Now, mind you, she had started preparing the conference when? The day before. Well, she'd been gone and blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Maybe she was at Dairy Queen, not doing her homework. And I said, what's the difference in how you felt in this conference versus preparing other conferences? She said, oh, it was easy. I wrote it down so I can quote her. She said, the difference was I didn't care. I said, about what? She said, about whether the conference succeeded. I did care about doing my best, and I simply did that. But that just proceeded forth from who I am. I already knew I was worthwhile. So my work was easy. I was in the flow. I wasn't obstructed or distracted or distorted by fear. It was stressless, and it was infinitely easier and probably better than I've done in the past, with all the fussing and fear and preparing and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is pretty big stuff. Probably should turn it into a blog. That would be a good idea. This is from a mother of a couple of young kids who are, I can't remember their ages, but about 4 and 6, I think. She said, I'm rereading this email to you and thinking how amazing it is that this small thing, family meetings is what she's thinking of, that's what she'd been reading and talking about, is making such a difference for our children. We have them once a week, 10 to 15 minutes each time. It's a really small thing, but the impact on the kids is huge. Anyway, I'm just kind of blown away by it. Yeah, me too. I'm blown away by it every time I see families begin to implement them, because it sort of means they're serious. Corporations have meetings. Every organization that wants to succeed has meetings. Why? Because it's important to coordinate, to inspire, to feel connected, to teach. A properly run meeting can make all the difference in the world to any organization. Are families less important than these others? I'll let you answer that question. I'll let you answer it by whether you have family meetings or not. A woman wrote to me, and it was very short. She said this, new subject. Ask not why your husband leaves his dirty clothes on the floor next to the laundry hamper, but ask how you can pick up his dirty laundry while you're loving him. Nice little paraphrase of a Kennedy inauguration speech. Now, does that make you a doormat? Oh no. You can voice your preference. You can periodically say, like when I say periodically, I mean like once a year. You could say, I would prefer if you put your clothes in the laundry hamper instead of next to it. But if he doesn't respond, is it really worth nagging him? Really? Over this? Is it really worth affecting you behaving and feeling as partners to have the clothes moved to the hamper? You can pick all of his clothes up for a week, bend over, pick them up in your arms, and plop them in the hamper. I'm just going to guess 1,000, 2,000, 3, in 3 seconds. And you're going to nag him, which will take more than 3 seconds. And then he's going to avoid you, which might take, several years. Just saying. So 3 seconds or several years. This is really a question. And yet, apparently, because many people answer it with several years will be, I choose several years, please. No kidding. Chocolate cake or asphalt? Yeah, I would like a piece of the asphalt, please. With a little dollop of, concrete on top. New subject. This is from a mother of small children. We've had 2 of those today. We've had some parents and wives and husbands, and here's another mother. She said, today started out rough. The kids were cranky all morning. I made a real love call and stayed calm. Wow, this is 3 in a row. This is 3 in a row where the parent has chosen to be calm. Huge, because your calmness makes everything else possible. She says, the turnaround happened after we watched a movie. It gave me a chance to collect myself and be more intentional about teaching them. First thing I did was I made up a silly song. Oh, kids really like this. When you get silly and act like a child, they pay attention to you much better than when you act like their jailer. Now, I can't explain that. I mean, come on. Who wants to have a jailer? Why do you think kids are so entertained by clowns, for example? Yes, I know there are people who are afraid of clowns, but not very many. Kids are entertained by clowns because they act like little kids, but they have all the mental resources and creativity of an adult. It's like, duh. Kids just love that. So first thing I did was make up a silly song about a loving fish who cared about all of his friend fish. Now I kind of want to hear the song. The kids really liked it, and it really changed the mood. Yeah, no kidding. The big thing is you thought of them. And that, my dear, is enormous. My 3-year-old daughter, I didn't say their ages earlier. My 3-year-old daughter was trying to erase the whiteboard with her fingers. You've all seen this. We used to have chalkboards when I was in school, and apparently that is now very passé. If you have an actual blackboard, well, then you must be from the, 50s or 60s, which, oddly was when I went to school. But she's using a whiteboard, and she's erasing the ink with her fingers, and we all know how that gets, right? So now we have finger grease all over the chalkboard, and it doesn't really erase all the, whatever you call that, ink, the temporary ink. And it was slow and inefficient. So her 5-year-old brother said, actually, you can use this eraser. It's faster. Now, here's the important part. This is mom talking. There was no tone in his voice, like he usually has. This is a kid who has a long history of bossing her around, bullying her. He would have come over there and told her she was stupid, and he would have shown her how to do it, and he would have mocked her, been condescending. Oh no, he just offered that this would be more efficient. Very cool. Mom says, seems like a little thing, but I told him that he used very good communication and leadership. Yes, you're right. It's not a small thing. And it's huge that you acknowledged him. All parents pay attention to this. Praise doesn't work. Oh, you are such a good boy. What does he learn from that? What he learns is that if he does what you'd like him to do, then you'll like him more. That's what he learns. Mom didn't praise him. She said it was good communication and it was good leadership. She gave him information to guide his next choice. You keep this up, honey, and he'll do more. Whereas if kids are praised, it's been proven that they do whatever they're praised for less. Mom says, I said to the 5-year-old, your sister was having a hard time erasing. You looked for something to solve the problem and you offered it to her kindly. I let him know that I noticed that she listened to him gladly. Listen to this. Kindly, gladly. Anybody hearing this? There's like a key there. Do you want me to show it to you? Okay, I will. Kindly, gladly. They're actually connected. And it turns out that it works for people who are 43 and 45, not just people who are 3 and 5. Mom says, then I asked, do you think she would have listened so easily if mommy had said the same thing to her with an angry voice? Now, see, that was a brilliant example to use you as an example of doing it wrong. Wrong as in ineffectively, unloving. Because it makes you vulnerable, makes you open. Mom continues. He said, no, she wouldn't have listened so easily. And he smiled with that little smirk of, I'm pretty pleased with myself. When you point out what a child is doing that's effective and they give you that little, I really am pretty cool, they're going to remember that lesson. Now watch a child's face when they're being pummeled with the fists of criticism and expectation. You don't see a smile on that kid's face. You don't see the smirk of having done it right, and the child's not going to learn the lesson. You're just doing beautiful things, Mom. Can you see this? Can you feel it? It's wonderful. And I say to everybody who's listening, these examples of parenting that we've used today, these examples of spouses interacting, these aren't freakish events. These are like real emails that I get every week at a rate of about 10 times what I read to you or more. It's so fun to read what people can do when they feel loved and happy. Mom concludes, in the evening, we had giggling fits, acting like animals, and the 5-year-old was peaceful and didn't misbehave all day. This is a kid who has a long history of being a bully and a tyrant and demanding and entitled. And Mom is breaking this pattern. By what? Whipping him every time he acts entitled? Throwing him down the stairs when he misbehaves? No, by loving him. So, of course you had a fun evening. He felt loved. He felt seen. He felt instructed. Can't stand it. New subject. Here's a Bruce story. One of the grandkids. Bruce is now, I think he's 5. Bruce is 5, and he finished using the bathroom, and as he closed the door, he said to his mother, I turned out the lights, Mom, in case you were trying to save energy. Let's just say I can't picture having said such a thing when I was 5 years old. Here he is being thoughtful, not just doing what he was told, but understanding that there's a reason because his mother has explained to him the reason. Doing it without being told, doing it eagerly, and for a good reason. This kid's going to keep doing this because he's doing it for all the right reasons. This is just a hoot. New subject. I know a woman who's pretty serious about living in a loving way. So she's really studying how to be loving. Her husband is an alcoholic and a workaholic. He's never around, and even when he is around, he's drunk. She says, I got very emotional at the thought of leaving my husband, call him Brad. And after a call with my coach, I worked out why I was emotional. I still have the need for just somebody for companionship. I feel alone. So you're not getting much companionship now, are you? He's either gone to work or he's home drunk, which means he's at home and gone. So at work, he's physically gone. When he comes home, he drinks, and now he's emotionally gone. Or he's raving and screaming about one thing or another, so he's gone again. So he's always gone. You don't have any companionship at all, and yet supposedly you are married, but that implies partnership, and you're not experiencing that. So I get it. And then she concludes, what would not participating in an alcoholic's pain and drama look like? This is just a possibility. Since you asked the question, what would it look like to not participate in all this? Because I'm getting tired of it. One possibility would be to utterly refuse to speak with him or be with him while he's either drinking or being dramatic. Why? Because he's not there anyway. I have a friend who periodically calls me drunk. And I pick up the phone and he says hello. I immediately know that he's drunk. I just hang up the phone. The next day, he doesn't remember that he called me. Everybody in 12-step programs knows you don't have conversation with the drunk. They're not there. You just as well have a conversation with the bottle they're holding. Really. So you just simply refuse to engage in the drama or in the ghost of a person who's there when he's been drinking because he ain't there anyway. And as it is now, you participate in the drama of the drinking or the anger or the whatever. And so this is, again, another illustration of a principle we've been talking about, which is he makes the choice to be raving or drinking, and then you pay the price by staying in the room with him and actually trying to talk to him. Makes no sense. Essentially, this would mean living parallel lives because he drinks a lot. You'd live in the same house, but wouldn't really be partners at all. Or, so that live with the pig and learn to like it, or leave him. You both win either way. And I'm not making a suggestion at all what you choose. I'm just showing you here are the options you're down to, pretty much, because you've tried everything else. New subject. I know a woman who corrects her husband all the time. No matter what he says, she modifies what he says. I've been there. He can't speak. He'll say, wow, look at those 4 crows on the fence. She'll say, there are 5. She'll even do that if there were 4 when he said there were 4 and another one came and there are 5. She just feels that, the entire world needs her latest updates. She's kind of a walking Facebook page. Before we ever modify our partner, we have to be willing to answer the 4 questions that are in the marriage book. Is this any of my business? 4 crows. No. Does it matter? 4 crows. No. Doesn't matter. Can I say this in a loving way? She can't. And can he hear it in a loving way? No. So, by all four criteria, her speaking and correcting him, really, she'd be mute because she corrects him for nothing. Let me add one. If there is a mistake, ask yourself, is it imminent? Is it just about to happen? Is it inevitable? Is it catastrophic or life-threatening? In other words, if you can't answer those questions, yes, still pretty much shut up. Like the lady with the husband who puts his clothes right next to the laundry basket. Notice he doesn't leave them all over the house. He puts them right next to the laundry basket. He has a learning disability between in and next to. Just think of him as learning disabled. So we could correct him. She could correct him every single day, or once a week, just pick up an armful of clothes in 3 seconds and put them in the hamper. Much easier. I told this to her, to the lady who corrects her husband all the time. And after going over it several times, she actually said this: I can feel myself unclenching, loosening up. Because she walks around just like this all the time, just tense, because she's looking for things to correct. It gives her a feeling of purpose, gives her a feeling of power, of control. Once she saw that it's really pretty stupid, it's killing their marriage, it's killing her, she said, I can feel myself unclenching. I fuss over nothing. Oh, bless you, because a lot of us could use saying that, fussing over nothing. This is from Donna, my Donna, the one who's sitting here in the room with me. And it's about the grandkids. Anytime I talk about the grandkids, it's not because, gee, I'm proud of my grandkids. No, I'm happy for them, that they're happy, but proud, I don't know where that goes. It's just to illustrate the effects of real love on children who are raised with real love from a very early age, and how unbelievably joyful it can be. So Donna says that Bonnie, who is 2, she said, Bonnie sent me a drawing in the mail for the second time. It was a single squiggle, done with one crayon. So Bonnie took a piece of paper and went like this, and she said, send that to Grandma. Apparently she talks about Grandma every day. She wakes up in the morning and says, where's Grandma Baer? And she looks for her in the house. And she sends things to her in the mail. So Grandma writes back and says, Dear Bonnie, thank you for the beautiful purple drawing that you mailed to me. I love it. I love you more, though. You're very sweet to color it for me, and you're sweet to mail it for me. I will save it forever. Love, Grandma. Notice the lack of emphasis on praise and the emphasis being on, it was so sweet of you to do. And it meant something to me. You affected my life. That's something children like to hear. Actually, adults like to hear it too. Donna continues and says, Bonnie was surprised by the gushing, loving note, so she immediately squiggled another drawing for me, this time using, count them, 3 crayons, 3 colors. And after receiving it, I sent her a text. Dear Bonnie, you are amazing and so sweet to me. I am the luckiest grandma in the world, and I'm the only grandma in the world with this artwork of red and purple and green that you drew. Ooh. It's not about whether it's beautiful. It's not about whether it's going to hang on the wall in a gallery somewhere. It's that Grandma felt touched that Bonnie would do this. Then she does the next thing that you do instead of praise. Grandma did. Donna says, what made you think of all those swirls? See, she's engaging with Bonnie. They don't need our praise. They want us to involve them in our lives, and they want us to be involved in theirs. What made you think of those squirrels or those swirls? Were you thinking of a swing at a playground? Maybe bathtub colors? I know that you have a heart as sweet as cotton candy. Love, Grandma. So Bonnie's mother writes later, I read the notes, the most recent note to Bonnie, and she took my cheeks with her hands and just put her forehead up against mine without saying anything. So picture this. 2-year-old takes her mother's cheeks in her hands and puts her forehead up against her forehead, just wordlessly soaking it in. What a way to live, huh? Imagine if the children in the world could be raised like, that. Touching. New subject. Here's somebody who writes and says, I do my best to tell the truth as soon as I spot it to the person I'm interacting with if I am unloving. I'm wondering how deep a truth it's best to tell somebody else. At the moment, I've gotten into the habit of saying things like, I just got irritated there and that was wrong of me. But I don't feel like that's enough. Would it be better for me to say something like, I got irritated with you earlier, which was wrong of me. I was afraid of not being good enough, and I took that out on you. I'll be more aware of this from now on. This isn't too difficult. You use the first one, the short one, where you just say, I got irritated, I was wrong. You do that with an acquaintance, which is pretty much everybody. You could do that with anybody. You have zero understanding of love and anger and all that. Everybody understands if you say, I got irritated, I was snotty, I was wrong. Everybody accepts that. Where they have the hard time is when you tell them, you were irritated and snotty and you were wrong. But everybody gets the how you are wrong if you do it. As you trust people more and you've had more experience with them, then you can do the second longer version, which I've already read. I'm not going to read again, which, by the way, is a really, really nice way of saying it. You continue. Just now, I was telling my dad about something that I was proud of. I was proud of myself for at work. And he added how I could have done it better. He was just like an excited little kid who was trying to look good to win brownie points with me. When I remove my expectation to be loved by him, I can see that clearly. Ah, that's lovely. That's just your dad. Notice that you didn't see this bitterly. You were proud of something you did at work. You told your dad, you kind of offered him a gift, and he went, no, that wasn't good enough. You could have done it better like this. He really kind of just stomped on your gift, but you noticed that he kind of did it gleefully. In other words, he's learned all of his life to get a sense of worth, a sense of value, meaning, power, position, a role by correcting things, by finding something wrong with things. And most of the time that will alienate him from, well, everybody. And you chose not to take it like that. You chose to just see him as being him. That's pretty sweet. That's way better than, well, my father was a jerk, but I'll forgive him. That's why I hate the word forgive. No, you just accepted him. You continue. I made an irritated remark that he doesn't, so apparently you didn't accept him completely. I made an irritated remark that he doesn't have to improve on every success I have. I recognized a bit of, I should have read further before I gave the answer before, although I've heard you be accepting of his correcting. So on this particular case, you had enough. Made an irritated remark that he didn't have to improve on every success I have or everything I say. I recognized a bit of pride in myself when I realized that I needed to tell the truth to my dad about my irritation during this interaction. I heard a little voice saying, why should I say a truth to him? I'm his child. He's the one who shouldn't be hurting me. I told the truth about myself to him anyway, because in reality, I have other people who love me now. So I look to be loved from them and not from him. So I figured, well, I got nothing to lose. I'll tell the truth to him about my being irritated about his correcting me. Good for you. It's very unlikely that he'll ever change as a result of it. And the more you tell the truth about your expectations of him, you're being irritated at him, you're probably going to learn that it's not fruitful. It just doesn't make you happier, and it's not going to change him. So you'll discover that it's probably more useful to tell the truth about your irritation at him to somebody else, which is what you're doing in this email. Very nice. So you changed your entire attitude with the thought, which is beautiful. Wish most of us could do that. Here's somebody who says, my daughter, Jill, has a step-grandfather. And so the lady that's writing says, my daughter, Jill, has a step-grandfather who said to her the other night at the end of a celebration dinner, honey, you have a nice butt. Apparently this is not the first time he has said this to her. Jill is upset, but doesn't want to say anything to him. I think she's afraid of causing problems, even though she is not the problem. How can I best help her? Can you give me some words to give her? That's a really smart question to ask, because very often we don't respond to something because we can't think of the words. And because we can't think of the words, we shut up. Then we wish we'd spoken. Now we're more fearful. Now we're more anxious. Then we're even less likely to come up with the words. And so why does it matter? Why does it matter that somebody says you have a nice butt? Because every time she allows a comment like that to pass by without saying something, now I don't mean a work crew whistling as a girl goes by. That's just them being male animals. Big deal. What are you going to do? Stop and give a real love lesson to a work crew? But when your grandfather says something to you, yeah, it kind of matters. And every time she lets it pass by without saying something, she feels smaller. She feels less significant. She feels used. And that's why it matters. She, in fact, she invites being treated like she's worthless if she doesn't say anything. That's why with strangers, it's not really an invitation. You just passed by once. It's not like they do it over and over and you see the same guys, and it's not like they matter. But with her grandfather, yeah, she does have to say something for herself so she doesn't feel insignificant. Here's an example of what she could say, just so she has the words, so she's prepared and doesn't feel tongue-tied. Grandpa, you just made a comment about my body and about a potentially sexual part of my body. I don't especially like it, and I would prefer that you not do it again. Now, tell her, because you got to introduce her to the real world, that he almost certainly will defend himself. And he'll say, oh, I was just playing around. I was just joking. People who make really stupid mistakes very often say that. Oh, I was just joking when I said you were fat and stupid. Yeah, see, that doesn't erase the comment. It doesn't. And there's no way to joke about that. There isn't. So he'll defend himself, and then you're going to prepare her what to do. What does she do if he defends himself and says, I was just joking? She says exactly the same thing, word for word. If she defends herself, she's going to feel smaller too. And he's going to then defend himself, and we're going to have a fight now. See? So she says it again. Grandpa, you just made a comment about my body. I didn't especially like it, and I would prefer you not do it again. And then she turns and leaves. What did we just talk about? Her butt? Don't care. Her grandpa making a comment about it? No. We're talking about how to empower a young girl so that she knows what to do. when something uncomfortable happens. Beautiful. So, like we ask all the time, what can we do? What can we do to bring more truth and love into this situation? What could we do? And if we did, how would that change things? Ooh, ask that question, you'll pretty much change everything in your life. See you in a week.